New data from Zillow shows some interesting changes in the DMV's housing market. Take a look here. The online real estate marketplace reports home values are rising in the DC metro, but there's a lot more to choose from. Joining us now is Zillow's chief economist, Amisha Fisher. Amisha, thanks so much for being with us today. You know, home values in the DC area, they're up slightly by 0.6% this month, but still lower than last year. What does that mixed picture actually mean for someone in our area who's wondering, is this a good time to buy or sell?
Well, I think it really depends on if they want to be buying or selling, right? This is a market that is filled with contradictions. There's a lot happening. For example, affordability is improving, but I wouldn't characterize things as affordable. At the same time, if you're a seller, you're sitting on a lot of equity, but you might also be looking at a flat home value year over year. So it's really a mixed bag depending on whether or not you're a buyer or seller. I think the common advice I have for both sides of that ledger is prepare ahead of time because there's a lot moving and things are changing quickly. So the more you prepare ahead of time, the better positioned you're going to be.
Okay. You know, we know that inventory is up nearly 10% compared to last year, right? So where are people actually seeing more options on the market right now?
So you're seeing options up and down the price spectrum in terms of inventory, and it really does speak to the need to understand what you can afford on a day-by-day basis. So, for example, Zillow has a tool called Buyability that actually updates based on what inventory is doing and what mortgage rates are doing in real time, so that as that math changes, you can see what you can afford on a daily or weekly basis. And to really drive that point home, if you look at inventory, there's about 15,000-ish homes available in the DC metro right now in terms of active inventory. That's a big improvement over last year where it was more around 14,000. So you've got about 1,000, 1,500 more homes to choose from. But pre-pandemic, it was closer to 20,000 this time. So that's this contradiction where it's improving, but there's still less to choose from. And that's why understanding the tools that you have at your disposal and preparing for that journey is so key.
Also, part of that inventory, I mean, we see a lot of new construction going up too. Is that all part of that inventory as well, like the newer homes?
Yeah, newer homes are certainly part of the mix. You see that particularly in the rentals space. So, if you're a somebody in the rental space, that's where you can really see new construction provide more options and improve the math of what you can afford. That's something that we see in the DC metro and across the country. Where you have a lot of new construction, you see a lot more choices for consumers and you see that downward pressure on rents or on mortgage payments because of all that new supply that's available.
Right. We're seeing a noticeable jump in newly pending listings in this region, up 7.6% year over year. What's driving that activity right now?
I think what's driving a lot of that activity is that we had kind of a slow January and February because of the harsh winter weather that we saw. There were a number of storms, and that slowed down some activity. And then we also saw rates drop down sub six for the early part of March. And so I think a lot of people locked in those low rates and were able to take advantage of that timing, which of course is a nice benefit for them because we've seen rates rise in the last couple of weeks.
Okay, so maybe you're not in the market to buy or sell, but maybe rent. The typical rent in the DC area is about $2,300 a month, essentially flat compared to last year. So what does that mean for renters right now? And do you think things are finally stabilizing?
Well, there's two sort of categories of renters, right? If you're a lifestyle renter, take advantage of the extra choices and the extra relief on your pocketbook that you get from the reduced overall cost of rent. I mean, take advantage of that, jump on top of it. You've got extra money in the bank. If you're a renter who's waiting to be an owner, this is also kind of a nice way for you to cushion your savings and to work up that down payment availability because you do see lower rents. And so if you're and it also, even if you're a renter, that point I made earlier about preparing, it also applies because if you're a renter who's thinking about owning in 6 months or a year, you can start preparing now by, for example, on Zillow, if you're making your rent payments there, you can start getting credit for your on-time rental payment. So that improves your credit score for next year's home buying season or for home buying later this year. At the same time, if you don't have enough down payment available for the dream house, even with the savings that are available with cheaper rent, there's down payment assistance that's available too, so you can also browse that. So it really speaks to the need to prepare even for renters as well.
Prepare, prepare. Okay. Zillow's chief economist, Amisha Fisher, thank you so much for that valuable insight. We'll talk to you soon.
Thanks for having me.
Of course.